Good evening and welcome to a summary of the news. Deputizing for His Majesty the King, His Royal Highness Prince Faisal bin Al Hussein offered condolences to the families of the martyrs who were killed in the terrorist attack on the border with Syria. His Highness visited the families of martyrs Nuruddin Muhammad Saleh Shhade, Ahmed Muhammad Mahmoud Al Sbehi, Bilal Omar Salim Al Zu'bi, Khadr Muhammad Khadr Al Hajji, and Anas Abd Al Rauf Mahmoud Al Asmar. Prince Faisal, who was accompanied by His Majesty's military advisor and chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, conveyed the deepest sympathies of His Majesty to the parents of the martyrs who were killed while performing their national duty. His Royal Highness Prince Hashim bin Al Hussein offered condolences to the family of martyr Uday Khawalde, who was killed in the terrorist attack that targeted the military post used for serving Syrian refugees on the border with Syria. Prince Hashim, deputizing for King Abdullah, conveyed His Majesty's deepest sympathies to the family of Khawalde. Prime Minister Hani al-Mulki offered condolences to the family of martyr Khadr Muhammad al-Darabsi, who was killed in the recent terrorist attack that targeted the military post on the border with Syria. Mulki, accompanied by a number of ministers, also visited the family of martyr Nuruddin Saleh Tuwaisat in the northern Jordan Valley, who was also killed in the terrorist attack. The Prime Minister said that Jordan will not forget those martyrs who sacrificed their lives in defense of the homeland and its citizens. Mulki and a number of ministers also visited Jarash, where they offered condolences to the family of martyr Bilal Amr Zu'bi, who was also killed in the cowardly terrorist attack. During a visit to Al-Qadisiyah town in the southern governorate of Tafili, al-Mulki also condoled the family of martyr Uday al-Khawaldi. In regional news, Iraq's elite counter-terrorism service CTS force came across a Daesh bomb factory in the Shuhada area of Fallujah as they continued to clear the city of the terrorists. The assault was spearheaded by the CTS, which has learned to fight the terrorists, with army and police units also taking key positions. Around 85 coalition airstrikes supported the advances. CTS Staff General showed off stacks of bombs and booby traps abandoned by Daesh as the army advanced. He said only two neighborhoods, Muallimin and Jolan, remained in Daesh hands, and once they fell, the city would be completely purged. Fallujah was the first Iraqi city to fall to the extremist group in January 2014 and was the last major Daesh stronghold in the sprawling Anbar province. The group still controls Mosul, Iraq's second largest city in the north, and the Fallujah operation has provided a possible model for the offensive on the group's de facto capital in Iraq, which is still being planned. Meanwhile, a United Nations official sounded a warning about the numbers of people expected to be displaced and in need of aid as Iraqi forces battle Daesh. Upcoming military offensives in Iraq against the terrorist group, including an assault on the northern city of Mosul, could displace at least 2.3 million people, said Elise Grant, the United Nations humanitarian coordinator for Iraq. Grant added that at least 430,000 more people could be displaced this year in Anbar, Iraq's sprawling desert province stretching west from Fallujah to the Syrian border, while another 830,000 people would be displaced along the Mosul corridor, stretching more than 100 kilometers from northern Salahuddin province towards Daesh stronghold. In Mosul itself, by far the largest city under Daesh control, a worst-case scenario could be seen.
And then there's Mosul itself, where in a worst-case scenario, there could be 1 million people that are impacted in humanitarian terms. You add all that up, we're talking about close to 3 million people that are going to be newly displaced. And under our contingency plan, we were trying to anticipate where the displacement will occur and get supplies in. And we're doing all of that with an appeal that's 30% funded. You know, there are limits to what can be done under those circumstances.
British voters have just hours left to cast their ballots in today's once-in-a-generation referendum on whether the United Kingdom should leave the European Union. Following months of heated campaigning, a record number of people, almost 46.5 million, are registered to take part in the historic vote. Registered voters include Britons aged over 18 from England, Wales, Scotland, Northern Ireland and Gibraltar. Irish and Commonwealth citizens living in the UK are also eligible to vote. Britain enters the referendum day a nation divided ahead of a decision that will shape its place in the world for decades.
All right. After months of fierce debates and political infighting, it's time for Britain to decide its future in the EU. Polls are now open to voters across the United Kingdom. The question they face, a simple yes or no. Should the United Kingdom remain in the European Union or give up its membership?
I think there are a lot of benefits from being in the European Union, and I think in order to make decisions alongside other countries, we need to be sitting around the same table.
I feel that there's a lack of democracy in the European Union, and the decisions are taken at a level that's too far away from the ordinary members of the Union, so that's why I voted to leave.
More than 46 million people are registered to vote, a UK record. The government's website crashing under demand, forcing Parliament to extend the deadline. And that's because while the question might be simple, the consequences are anything but.
I think it's a very complex issue, and I don't think we've had sufficient time to explore it in detail, so I don't think it's particularly evidence-based. I think it's a lot more emotive, which is always going to be difficult, but that would be my only comment, is it's sort of without facts, to be honest.
Prime Minister David Cameron promised a referendum in the run-up to last year's general election.
It is time for the British people to have their say.
He's led the Remain campaign since announcing the date in February, starting 4 months of increasingly acrimonious debate, often among his fellow Conservatives. Ballot boxes close at 10 p.m. on Thursday, a result expected within hours. Britain could be waking up to a very new dawn.
An armed and masked man was shot dead by German special police after storming a cinema complex in Wernheim in the Hesse region. The gunman had taken several hostages, all of whom escaped uninjured. A number of people inside the cinema were reportedly lightly injured when police deployed CS gas. Police said they had no indication of the motives of the man, adding that the gunman, who has not been identified, was disturbed and there was no initial evidence of a link to terrorism. According to several reports in German media, the man was masked with a balaclava and carrying combat boots and a long weapon with a munition belt slung over his shoulder. Police were reportedly investigating an explosive vest and a hand grenade found on his body to see if they were genuine. Solar Impulse 2 became the first solar-powered plane to cross the Atlantic when it landed in Spain early today. The single-seater landed in Seville 71 hours and 8 minutes after taking off from New York's John F. Kennedy International Airport. The transatlantic flight was the 15th leg of the plane's historic round-the-world journey. With a cruising speed of around 70 kilometers an hour, similar to an average car, the plane has more than 17,000 solar cells built into wings with a span bigger than that of a Boeing 747. Prior to its flight from New York to Seville, Solar Impulse 2 made stops in India, Myanmar, China, Japan, Hawaii, California, Phoenix, Tulsa, Dayton and Lehigh Valley. The final leg of the Odyssey is from Europe to Abu Dhabi. And finally, hot weather will prevail across the kingdom as the heat wave affecting the country is in the forecast for the next couple of days. Winds will be northwesterly moderate to brisk, stirring dust in the Badia region. Temperatures will be above seasonal average this time of year, with Amman tomorrow at 36 degrees and the Gulf of Aqaba, the mercury will reach 43 degrees Celsius. That's all for tonight. Have a pleasant evening.